Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Behind the Camera with AndyGames. This is a new podcast hosted by myself where I will be interviewing streamers, content creators, just to get like a little bit more of an insight as to who the person really is behind the camera of all these streamers that we may or may not know, just to sort of help communities grow and, like I say, just to get to know people a little bit better. And today, the first guest on Behind the Camera, I don't really think he needs much of an introduction. You all know him very well, those who are watching live on Twitch at the moment. Him and I also have another podcast together, Dark Games Entertainment. So yes, my guest and the first guest is Darkvoice Live. Dark, welcome to Behind the Camera. How are you doing, sir?
Andy, I'm doing so good. Thank you again for the invite for this.
Oh, always,
I'm very
always.
excited to be the tester. The what do they call that? They call it no, I shouldn't say that.
Oh, yeah. I think
I'll
I
be
know what you
nice.
mean.
I'll be kind.
Yeah. No, well, that's good. Honestly, it's
But
an
yeah, that was
absolute
fun.
pleasure.
I'm really excited.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Of course, there was no one else it would have been, considering, like I say, we have our own podcast, of course. So
Hmm.
why not?
Yeah,
But yeah, so
absolutely.
as I say, the whole premise of this, I'll just be asking just a few questions, just more like a conversation. There's nothing more
Yeah,
than we're really used to,
yeah,
really. So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So first of all, Dark, tell us a little bit about your background. Like, how did Dark Voice
Hmm.
become Dark Voice? Because I do understand, obviously, I know I've known you for coming up on a year, but obviously,
Hmm.
the history of Dark Voice does go a lot deeper than just that. So, by all means, do tell
Yeah,
us. Right from the origins.
sure, sure. I mean, okay, so obviously, like every kid, I liked playing games.
Yeah.
Like, eh, I did have a pretty unhealthy obsession with it. And it got to the point where it was starting to interfere with the rest of my life. Um, and my parents recognized that and were like, what are we going to do with this? And they were like, we're going to stop him from playing video games. And so they tried stopping me from playing video games. And then my brother was like, yo, how about I buy you a PC? And I was like, okay, that sounds like fun. And they bought me a PC. And I started playing StarCraft 1. Um, Now, this would have been, God, when would this been? Probably sometime in 2005 or 6, I think.
Yeah.
I want to say was around when I started. And I got really into it, like really, really into it. And since it was a gift from my brother, the whole thing was I had to keep up my grades to a certain degree or had to be doing well in other areas of my life. Otherwise, he was going to take away the computer. Really, it was his excuse to help me out with getting a computer. It was
Oh,
very
for
sweet of
sure.
him.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's no such thing as
Um,
a free lunch, is there?
that's right. Um, he was really good at video games. He actually played for a couple esports teams
Ooh.
himself. He played Counter Strike professionally. He also played. There was a really big scene for Quake, and
Oh, sure.
oddly, there was a really big scene for a game called Left 4 Dead, and he was really, really good.
Oh.
Um, Again, good enough to be, involved with esports basically from the beginning of what we know as modern esports. Um, People like FaZe Clan were old friends of his. All of the people that used to play in founded Team Liquid and all those big groups were his friends,
Mhm.
and the really fun group. They called themselves the Bot Crew, and my brother was Pigbot. If anybody out there wants to dig deep enough to find Pigbot, um, but anyway, really, really, really fun. Uh, and they got me involved in esports. They found out that I was really good at StarCraft because I was playing a lot of it, and they got me signed up in playing StarCraft, and that was a lot of fun. And then I got really into that. Did that in like amateur leagues and other things like that. I played in a couple other games. I was pretty good at Super Smash for a while and did a couple tournaments out here in Utah that were local tournaments. Some of them were a little bigger. Some of them were with kind of what you expect from an esport event back in 2010.
Yeah, for sure.
They're kind of small, kind of low key things. Um, but it was fun. I loved doing that. It was a lot of fun playing Again, it was professional in that I was making money. It was not anywhere near the level of professional that we have in current today,
Hmm.
but I was able to get pretty dang good at StarCraft 2 and played in a lot of those. Um, Kind of ended up pushing ladder pretty hard, getting into Grandmasters in StarCraft. For those of you that don't know what that entails, it does entail being in the top 500 in the world at the
Holy
game.
shit.
And yeah, it was really fun. I miss that time a lot. Actually, sometimes I want to go back and play a little StarCraft every now and then. But then I remember RTSs are kind of dead.
Mm.
Um, but after finishing up with esports on that side of things, I retired, which is AKA a nice way to say that it was not paying the bills and I needed to, actually do something with my life. Which is, by the way, what most people will say when they say they retired from esports. um, no, but really, after moving forward from my time playing in esports, um, I just was like, I can't get that competitive edge out of me. I
Yeah.
really want to experience more of that. I'm really competitive with myself, but I want to be competitive with other people as well. So what do I do? And I started up a group called EDF Esports, and we started that up with the original intent of um, doing a couple different games. But actually, the biggest one that took the most root was PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds
Mm.
when that came out, and we got a couple different sponsor groups. We competed every single week in PUBG online tournaments, and made a good little bit of money. Had some fun with that. That was a lot of fun. Made a whole kind of team out of it. Again, got some sponsor groups and really enjoyed that. Then we had a couple people that made a Rocket League team, and they did really well in Rocket League. They pushed really far ahead, and I was able to manage and help coordinate them and manage some of their sponsorship groups. And it was nice because for once I didn't have to play in the esport. I was able to just sit back and let them do their thing,
Yeah.
and supply them with things, which was really fun. Um, and that went really well for a couple years. Um, Almost made it into one of the world's largest Rocket League tournaments, which was really cool. But our team was good, and they ended up a lot of them got sniped by other full pro teams that were able to pay them more than what we were able to, and
Oh man.
and now they're making good livings doing that, and I'm really proud of them. I
Oh,
hope
that's
that they all know
awesome.
that.
Like, it's still nice that sometimes when people are like recognized for things like that, like obviously, in hindsight, I'm sure like there's a part of you being like, shit, why couldn't that have been me? But like even at the same time, like you're basically in that vein seeing your friends go on to succeed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
absolutely,
like
and
it's
it was
nice.
so deserved, And one of the big things with me was I wanted to make sure that our contracts with the players was very, very um, lenient,
Yeah.
very easy, and very player friendly. The contracts that I had signed when I was in esports were pretty aggressive. The vast majority of my earnings went towards the team,
Yeah.
and I saw very, very little of them come back. And I did not like that. It really sucked. And so with our team, I made sure that they got to keep basically, if not all, a very, very high percentage of their earnings. With I think it was only 5 to 10% depending on the player,
Hmm.
going towards the team and the team expenses. And those team expenses, of course, went to pay for buy-ins for people that wanted to play in different tournaments for things like that, um, various pieces like that. But it was nice. After that, we kind of started into. I was able to kind of step aside and be like, all right, go. All the esports groups were kind of doing their thing. We had a Smash team, we had a StarCraft team, and at some point, we got a bunch of friends together, started doing StarCraft leagues, and I was organizing and running some StarCraft events and things like that were really fun. And that was great. God, that was great. And we managed to actually join up with a group called the League Esports. They're still around. Um, they still do little amateur esports events. So if anybody's interested in amateur esports, definitely check them out.
I definitely
Um,
definitely do.
but I used to host a bunch of things with them, and we helped run an Extra Life event with them, and I was one of their main event organizers with them for that. And we managed to raise like $35,000, I want to
Oh
say,
shit.
for Extra Life, which was a
Wow.
really fun thing. And with some of the sponsor groups that I was able to bring into the table and things like that, and I was able to be a very direct contributor to making sure that all happened, along with a bunch of other people. We had so many people working on that. It was an absolute treat to be a part of. I actually am really wanting to reach out to them again at some point and try to plan another event
Mhm.
like that would be online at some point. I'll keep you posted, Andy, if we end up
Hell
doing that.
yeah. No, that'd be
But
amazing.
yeah, that was really important to me. I love doing those events. Um, while those were going, I got really into Destiny, and I created a Destiny team, and we created a clan for that. And we got a lot of good friends in there for that, and have played a lot in there. We've done a lot of day one races and fun things like that. Had a good time in there. For a little while, I was in the top 100 for speedrunning in Destiny 2, which was very difficult. I could not keep it up because it takes a lot of time. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of
And it's so
time.
competitive as
And
well, Destiny, like as a game,
oh, extremely.
like I didn't
Yeah.
realize this until you pointed it out to me actually like a couple of months ago. Now every time I go on to Twitch and I look and I
Hmm.
see someone streaming one game and someone streaming Destiny, like on average the Destiny ones have like hundreds to like 1,000 per people, you know?
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
and
Depending on the time of year, it can be huge. Yeah.
yeah, and like honestly that was like a massive shock to me, but then obviously that was just like something that I didn't really realize with, having no sort of experience or knowledge of that because obviously
Hmm.
you're a seasoned veteran of the game, like you've been there, you've seen some shit, but
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. So like, okay, so then you got into
Yeah.
Destiny, and then
Hmm.
so then what happened then from there, like your Destiny teams, and I know you still do like the
Right.
raids and stuff in Destiny, which
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
it's nice that you still
It
keep
was
that
just
up
eating up a
too.
lot of time. Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's one of my favorite games. Our clan kind of shrunk just over time. It kind of the natural ebb and flow of things, right? We've been playing it now for years at this point. I
Hmm.
mean, we're talking many, many, many years. And it kind of goes through phases. Sometimes we have a pretty big size clan. Sometimes we get a little smaller. We do things called Sherpa raiding, where we teach people how to raid and how to do things like that. And sometimes that gets pretty big.
Yeah.
Like, again, with the speed running, it's just really hard to keep up with. I mean, some games you'll see a record will last for years, right? I mean, like in Super Mario 64, for example, you'll see a record get made and it lasts that way for years,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Um, in Destiny, a record is broken every other day, sometimes every couple of hours.
That's insane.
If you wanna keep up with it, I mean, it goes from player bases of very very small, like a lot of the retro games. Speedrunning is a very very niched, very very small communities overall that actually play the games.
Yeah.
Um, and the amount of time spent to get into them is kind of small and just kind of again lower numbers. Whereas some of the games like Destiny, where they have millions of concurrent players,
Yeah, of
you
course.
know, it's a lot. So being able to keep up and stay in the top 100 for any amount of time, I was able to maintain top 100 in dungeons for about 4 years.
Oh shit!
Um,
Wow.
if I know that with a few of my times as well, that if I were to spend a little bit of time in some of the newest dungeons that have come out, um, I think that my cumulative would keep me somewhere in the top two to 300 at this point.
Hmm.
If I just I'd have to run a couple new ones. They add new dungeons frequently, and your cumulative time overall in
Yeah.
them, of course. So, um, but yeah, then with Destiny stuff, kind of started getting into streaming a little bit more, and again after the kind of the tail end of PUBG and Destiny, I kind of went through phases between my different work schedules and things like that would allow me to either stream or not stream.
Yep.
And I had a really big surge in viewership back in the PUBG days. I got up to actually a couple thousand followers for a while,
Oh wow.
and would maintain pretty good sized streams.
Yeah.
Um, and I think like averaging 45 to 50 viewers per stream.
Still
Never quite
brilliant
enough
then.
for the. It was still good. Yeah, it was good, but never enough for like partner or anything like that.
Yeah.
But pretty good still.
So was this
But then
under
when I stopped playing
Darkvoice or
PUBG, everybody
was
stopped.
yeah? Was this
Yeah,
under
still,
Darkvoice or
still
was it
same
under?
channel.
Yeah, yeah.
Same channel, same everything. But over years of me not playing PUBG and other things like that, you lose viewers, you lose follower groups.
For
It's
sure.
kind of. So I ended up taking a big hiatus for a little while. Actually, I really injured my hands about 3 years ago,
Oh,
um, and was basically not able to even play video games without v- very considerable amounts of pain.
yeah.
Um, and so I didn't play games for like almost a year. And during that time period, I lost a lot of my viewership and following. basically all of it. And then when I started switching to other games, people don't like it when you switch games.
No, for sure, for sure.
So you end up losing. You end up losing out on viewers and followers very quickly when they realize you're never going to stream the game that they followed you for
Yeah,
initially.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, and I just think as well, like,
yeah.
because I think, like streaming does come in like two different like sort of things. You either have those people who are niched to one particular category, and then you have variety streamers, and like, I think with the variety, personality is like a fucking massive part of that. Because
it's so big.
it's like, like that's then the difference between somebody following you for the game you're playing, which don't get me wrong, regardless of if you're a variety streamer or not, people will, people will, and that's just that's just the way it is. But then at the same time, then you also then have people following you for you, and no matter what you're playing, just because you're basically you're very personable, and you're good on the camera to people. Do you know, like it's there is like a at what point do you like toe the line between the two things as well? Like obviously because from the signs of things, and you've done both. Like obviously you had your esports, you got into streaming, you were doing PUBG, and now like I'm sure you would consider yourself a variety streamer at this point. Like you do something different. Obviously, like you've had Elden Ring the last few days, and then you had Destiny for a week solid. But then at the same time, that's because there were certain things to do with that. There was like a reason for doing them. But then even like that aside, like when you're not doing Mario, you're doing some kind of Mario World Kaizo, which I mean, still Mario, but it's different. Also, Subnautica, all these other different things, like and it's like I think it's incredible, like
Well, thank you. I worry about it a lot that when people see me playing games that they're just not interested in, that they're not going to find any interest in the stream, which is totally fair. I don't want people to ever feel like they have to watch something that they don't want to see. But I hope that I'm able to be entertaining enough in my own various ways to make them, even if they're not their particular favorite, make them fun still. That's something that I worry about a lot, of course. But it's been fun. Again, and at such a small level of streaming, it's really all about just trying to keep things fun, and I think that for myself, the variety is what allows me to keep it fun for myself.
Absolutely.
So sometimes I have to do that for myself.
I think as well, one of like the positives I find with your streaming is the fact that the games that you play, a lot about them, like the lore, the gameplay, just the story. You're able to basically just you don't really necessarily fumble through games. It's just you will play this game like, oh, I like it, like Elden Ring, for example. Like I like the games like that, like they don't, not that they don't interest me, it's just I do struggle to kind of keep up with them. But then like you're kind of hearing about little bits and pieces and stuff, and obviously they're the games that you're good at, that you can literally just play with your eyes closed, and still it doesn't take away from you reading chat, which I think is like another important thing as well. So like it's you certainly do pick and choose right, like with what you're doing. Like, but I think that kind of comes with your like experience with having done the esports for so long, and sort of like kind of knowing the right way to be, I think.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I like playing hard games. I think hard games are my favorite thing. I like being challenged constantly when I play games. And there's also something that I've been trying to become, where for a long time I would focus on one game and become very good at it.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of time investment to really truly have mastery of a game. So basically any game that I play these days, I play without mastery in mind. I play pretty casually for myself. And it's an interesting spot to be in, I think, for myself, because I think my innate competitiveness inside knows that there's things that I could do to get better at one, and it's like this weird spot where I'm like, okay, well, how much can I really devote to one area before I'm kind of losing my mind? You know, like with
Yeah.
Mario 64, for example, I really do. I enjoy Mario 64. Um, I'm not a Mario speedrunner
No.
solely. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. You stumbled
can
into
I
that
can I
really more than
speedrun it?
anything.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was like, okay, let me just fuck around and see what I can do.
I remember the very
You
start
know?
you doing that though. Like I remember the very start because it was like just whenever you were doing the only up
Yeah,
64, and then that's
yeah,
kind of how that sort of I remember watching the first time you ever did one, like, and
yeah,
and I think that is kind of like testament to when you find a game, you will will give it your fucking all, basically. Like you will go through and just
yeah,
be like, like you say, it's not necessarily about mastery, but getting to a point
yeah,
of fluency, I suppose, within the game and
yeah,
stuff like that, and like challenging
yeah.
yourself and things like that. So like
Hmm.
even just like in that sense, just watching the sort of like progress of that is just, I think has been, pretty phenomenal, because like obviously
Well, thank
when
you.
I started off speedrunning, like that was my thing as well, and like I kind of just fucking give up on it because it was just absolutely like the most
It's
draining
hard.
thing ever. Yeah, it's hard, like, and I don't really
Yeah.
have that kind of like strong mental prowess, I suppose you could say, in terms of
Uh,
that. But
you could just say insanity. It's okay. It's it's
well,
it's a
yeah.
layer of insanity. Again, for me, like, s- I can die 4 million times to one boss in a
Hmm.
game, and
Yeah.
I'll still be there. I'll still be hitting that
Oh
four
yeah,
millionth
for
and,
sure.
and next try.
Yeah.
Um, which I think is a layer of insanity that I have, but it doesn't really phase me. I find quitting for myself when I feel that I've given up on something. That's when I fail.
Hmm. That's fair.
Um, and so for me, it's I would rather spend a long time to learn something and learn it than just get through it.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's not
absolutely.
about the what you get out of it, but the experience and the journey of doing it.
For sure.
Like, okay, in Mario, um, I didn't really care for 70 star getting sub hour.
Mm.
But then I thought to myself, well, you've kind of given up a little bit. Um, that's kind of like a failure. Like you had a goal, you set a goal that you wanted to do, and then you kind of gave up on it. And I'd say so far that's the only speedrun where I feel like I have failed the speedrun is on the 70 star Mario because I got so close to my sub hour and then just got disheartened and stopped. And it's going to be coming back again. I'm planning on still pushing for that because I don't want to fail it. But still, it's a curious spot to be, I guess, with where I'm at because I like having enough proficiency to say that I'm really good at a lot of games, but then I'm like a poo and I don't actually get good at one. Not anymore, at least I should say. But anyway, yeah, yeah. Mhm. 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 Yeah. Yeah. So we're making a let's see here. We're making a precision platformer that is reminiscent of a lot of the Up games, those kind of rage games, the Bennett Foddian styled rage games, where you kind of keep moving upwards and forward, and failure is very dangerous, right? So we're making a one about a cat. The name of the game is Curiosity, and I am building this game with myself, Grand Pooh Bear, and our engineer I Nightfall.
Yep.
Um, so we are going to be getting out kind of some. Our Steam page is hopefully going to be up here within this next week.
Oh, nice,
Um,
nice.
So I'm really excited for that. Really, really excited for that. Um, and what else can I say about it? Again, you play as a cat. You go up. You try not to go down. A couple little things I can say about the game. Um, it's not going to be your standard only up game. We are going to be having. There is a very, very, very light narrative. We also have a little bit more going on with the player. You were actually going to have a life system.
Okay.
Where the cat will have 9 lives.
That's clever.
And you can use up a life, as it were, to regain progress.
So like in a sense where you
game.
don't, like if you fall down, rather than just
if you
falling
fall
down
the
to the
whole
bottom,
way,
you can just use a life and end up to the point where you fell, for example.
Kinda.
Yeah.
There's right. There's ways that you will be able to set points. The player chooses points to set that will be like save areas.
Okay.
They will be limited.
Oh, so it's not like you can just like create your own checkpoints like anywhere sort of thing.
You can choose anywhere to put them.
Okay.
But you do have a limited number of them.
Yes, of course.
And there will be things you can do to either gain them back that might be kind of high risk, high reward. There's going to be some. There's a little bit more thought going into it than just go up and try not to scream at your computer. Is what I can say for it. Really, I'm very excited. We have custom music being made. We've been working really hard on just making a really fun level and a fun, unique design. The cat has been going through so much work to make this cat as fun as possible to play, and we're just excited to get people's hands on it. Hopefully, people will enjoy it. The most important thing for helping us out, by the way, I can't help but plug this, is to go in and to wish list it once we get that wish list ready. That helps us out a lot.
Definitely.
So.
Like I know for a fact that that's the first thing I'm going to do as soon as I find out about it. That is the first thing, because obviously, like I've known from this right from the very beginning, and I'm so fucking excited for it. Like I really, really cannot wait. And like, and obviously, you in one of your streams months ago, you did show us like this is the early days, even before this. Even before this,
yeah.
This would have been you must have only had like the bottom part and a couple of buildings and a few little tiny bits above it. And it looked absolutely just incredible based on that alone.
Well, thank you.
So I've been looking forward to this for ages, man.
Thank you.
Also,
it'll look very different when you see it next.
Oh, for sure. But yes, I do need to address this, by the way. So just for the benefit of the viewers, I did have like a little bit of a technical issue there, so I think that my mic cut out whenever I was asking Dark the question. So, like I said, just for the benefit of the viewers and the listeners, the question that I asked Dark that we've just been talking about for the last few minutes was: Dark is currently deving a game, and I asked him what can he tell us about this, just so. Well, for continuity, of course. But you know what? We're live. Sometimes not everything goes perfect. So, but like, I feel like it became fairly self-explanatory. Yeah, we live and roll. Yeah. So then, okay, in terms of curiosity, then, do you have any form of release date or for a demo or anything like that? Or is it the main focus right now just getting the Steam page, and then that way that's where the updates will come from, for example?
Yes, all of the updates will be done through the Steam page there. Feature and product creep are a real bitch.
For sure.
And as we've been working on things, it started off as like this, we'll have this sucker done by October, November.
Yeah.
As we get closer to that date, it starts getting a little, pushed out. We realized pretty quickly that if we wanted the game to do well and be something more, that it needed to be more than what a lot of people were creating, because a lot of people started creating and flipping and dumping these just horrible only up knockoffs that were just these just cheap crap that came out.
Even only up itself was a bit sort of, it was just jank, wasn't it? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think, like, I mean, Now, I don't know if it was essentially like an original concept, but it definitely did take off like pretty
Oh, it
incredibly whenever it came out
yeah.
last year. And obviously,
Mhm.
you had all the mods and stuff like that. Like, but
Mhm.
even that itself, it was like the movement of your character in Only Up itself. It was
Mhm.
like, do you know
Mhm.
them like inflatable men that you get outside of
Yeah.
like like the
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
those listening, you will not have seen that, but you know what? It's fine.
Totally wacky, incredible, zany tube floated man or whatever they're
Exactly,
called.
yeah. That's like
Yeah.
what the movement in that game felt like. So obviously, like what I like about it is the fact that you guys aren't rushing it. You are trying to
Mhm.
make it like not just another only up type game.
Yeah.
And just yeah, just
Yeah.
making it better and
We want it
making
to
it
be
more of an
fun.
experience as well. Like there's obviously a lot more at
Yeah.
stake with the game, and too, like you have lives this time, not just you fall down to the bottom and start again, etc., etc.
Mhm.
And like I say,
Mhm.
I'm really, really looking forward to seeing it come out.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
anytime.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. Yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
will definitely keep an eye out for the Steam page anyway, and I will add that shit to my wish list. And I will, and for those who are listening, definitely do that as well. If you follow either myself and games_94 or Dark Voice Live, you will be able to see when the Steam page is up, and you'll be able to wish list Curiosity. So that way, it helps Dark. It helps get the name of the game out there.
Yeah.
That's what we want. That's what we want for our friends.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah,
really appreciate that.
absolutely. So moving on here. So just to take streaming and Devon just out of the equation
Mhm.
just for a minute.
Mhm.
So like
Mhm.
outside of all that, what would like a day
Mhm.
just where you just have you to yourself or you and your wife? What would that look like? Like what are your interests? What's like the perfect day away from technology, you know, in your eyes?
Right, we set down all the technology
Yeah.
off to the
Well, like
okay.
there's no gaming or streaming
Was
involved, but
right.
like whatever you're,
Right.
you know.
Right. Well, okay, so lately between my like work and other things, right? Like there's not been much me time,
Mhm.
unfortunately, which has been really hard. But on like a on the rare this last year, the rare day that we get to go out, my wife and I are both very avid rock climbers and mountain bikers. Skiing when the season is available, but um, we're really outdoorsy. Um, love doing that. And anytime we can get out there and go camping and take our paddle boards out and go stand up paddleboarding and then ride some bikes up in the mountains for a while, go off some jumps and have a good time and then go rock climbing afterwards. I mean,
That's amazing.
that sounds like a really those are fun days. Those are really fun days.
Yeah, like obviously, like where you live, it's like perfect for that. Like I've seen, you sent me like videos and photos and stuff of like the surroundings and everything like that. Like, so
Mhm.
you being into all that, is that just like a product of living there and the fact that it's right on your doorstep, or was there
No.
something that just got you into it? Like, just did you just go out one day and think, oh, here, this is nice. I'm gonna walk up this ginormous mountain.
I've always been a climber.
Hmm.
As a little kid, my parents would catch me climbing everything in sight. Sometimes, really much to their chagrin. We have these really giant batting cages out here for like baseball, and they're just these tall things that would go up really high.
Yeah,
One of the first times I ever climbed something was probably when I was, oh golly, I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, maybe younger,
yeah.
and I climbed to the absolute top of one of them. They're probably about 120 feet tall.
Shit.
Um, climbed to the top of it and got stuck up there, and they had to yell, and nobody could get me down, so I had to climb down myself. I don't remember how I got down, but I know nobody came up and got me. I know I had to get that myself down.
Fair
But
play. Talk about
my mom
survivalistic
kind of
right
always
there.
knew. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. My mom, when she knew that I was getting into climbing stuff, she kind of said, "Oh, figure." But not really because it's around. So where I live out in Utah, and the majority of the valley, the majority of the populace in Utah lives in a fairly small zone.
Hmm.
Actually, around 80% of Utah, last I remember checking, was wilderness,
Oh well.
reclaimed wilderness that's not allowed to be built on. It's not allowed to be developed. It's just wilderness, and It's a very large space that allows a lot of Utah to have access to outdoors in a really beautiful way. We have a lot of national and state parks. Um, beautiful, beautiful places. I think most everyone in Utah, to be fair, is probably been pretty outdoorsy at one point or another in their life. For most people, that kind of just stays with camping, maybe hiking, kind of like gentle outdoor sports, but kind of things like that. As far as the extreme sports goes, I worked at a, I worked in a print shop for a while, and my boss was a older um, man who had run his hand through a table saw
Oh,
um, many years back and had lost the ability to move more than basically his index finger and thumb. He can move a little bit on his left hand, um, and he was talking to me one day, and he said, I really like rock climbing. Do you want to come with me? You could meet my wife and we could go rock climbing and it could be fun. I said, sure, let's go. Why not? I haven't been out doing something for a little while. That sounds like fun. I've not done outdoor rock climbing, but I've done like kind of outdoor rock climbing, but like really, really short and no ropes.
yeah, for
Just
sure.
like me as a kid being a dingus, right? So it's like, okay, let's try it out.
Climb with the batting
Let's see what I
cages
can
and
do.
stuff.
Right, right. And so we went out, we went up to, now when I say rock climbing, a lot of people kind of imagine it's like a gym. It's all outdoor. I don't climb indoors. I think that indoor climbing gyms are not it.
The very
I think
elitist,
they're
you heard it
gross.
here first.
I just think they're gross.
No, that's fair.
They're they don't give me the same feeling of adventure. When you're climbing a rock outside, the rock isn't telling you, "Hey, I want you to climb me, and here's how I want you to
Yeah,
climb me."
they're not
Whereas a wall
representative.
inside has been built to be climbed. They have
Yeah,
been somebody who said, "I want you to reach from this spot to this spot," and it's very prescriptive.
yep.
And the difficulty comes from how prescriptive. Can you do this specific move? Um, which is its own interesting thing. But outdoor rock climbing is way more interesting to me. It's got more risk, which I like. I like the adventure of it. I don't climb for the workout of it necessarily, though I enjoy a good workout from it. But
Yeah.
I climb for the adventure of it. And if a workout is what has to happen during that adventure, so be it.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
All part and parcel being outdoors as well, like, same like
right,
hiking, anything like
right.
that, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not there for the act of walking. I'm there for the experience of the hike.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
same thing with the indoor versus outdoor rock climbing. Also, the type of rock climbing that I like is called trad or traditional rock climbing, where there's not bolts. Like a lot of places they have like bolts on the wall that you can climb up and clip into. I carry with me my protection, so I take up they have camming lobes or nuts or things like that.
Oh, okay.
And you got to put those in the wall, and if you don't put them right, they might pop out and you might die.
Oh shit. God,
So
talk about risk.
so you got to know what you're doing, and you got to trust your gear. You have to have the right gear. You have to, again, most importantly, know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's a really big part of that adventure for me. But yeah, we went rock climbing with them, loved it, and then just never stopped. And before I knew it, I was climbing a lot. So far, my highest grade for any climbers out there is a 513D. It was a trad route. Really very fun. Yeah.
So
Nowadays, though, it's been a couple years since I went, so I'm kind of washed. But
in layman's terms, then what's a 513D?
So a lot of rock climbing routes are graded on different decibels or different rating systems depending on where in the world you are. But a lot of them just use like a standard metric system for it, and it's called the mountain standard, and they go in a number where they have a 5, a period, and then a number. Typically, the lowest I think I've ever seen is a 5.6. Anything lower than that at that point is considered scrambling or low grade. Something you would not need a rope for, that like your average person could probably just like walk up reasonably. I mean, it'd be a little dangerous, right? You'd want to be a fairly healthy person to go up like a 5.5 or something, right? But you could probably safely do it without a rope, mostly, right?
Yeah.
Around 5.6 is where it's like, no, you'd probably need a rope to be able to be safe. And it kind of goes up from there. Most people, when they begin climbing, start around 5.6, 5.7. maybe a 5.8. Um, and kind of like on the better end on average. Again, this is averages. Um, as you start getting more and more into it, you can probably have a couple people that are able to push like into 5.9, 5.10 range. Now they have sub ranges that are called the A, B, C, D range. So you have like a 5.10B or a 5.10C
Mhm.
because there are maybe parts of it that are harder than others that are like it. The hardest climbs in the world are around like 5.15 roughly. You got a couple in that range.
Yeah.
Um, 5.14 is still very, very, very difficult. Um, Maybe a few hundred people in the world that are able to consistently climb 5.14s and
Wow.
5.15s. 5.13 is pretty good, but it's the number of people that are able to do them is dramatically higher. Of course,
Yeah,
it
for
goes up
sure.
a bit more. It's still on the very, very kind of like far extreme of like what I would refer to as casual. Again, it's kind of how I do like a lot of like my speed running, right? It would be considered to be a really good time, but maybe not the world's best. Maybe not enough to gain like
Yeah.
global recognition, but enough to be like, that's pretty fucking good,
Yeah. So, say like upper average or something like that. You know.
Right, right. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where for layman's terms, I guess.
Yeah. That's pretty
That's
sick,
my
man.
one
Like.
little that's my little brag, I guess. Sometimes for your own health, everybody, you should brag about yourself.
Oh
It's
fuck
good for
yeah.
your emotions.
Absolutely. You know what? I mean, I think, in terms of things like that's like a fucking massive achievement. And like that's definitely something one you should be proud of yourself, and like and again it's like something that none of us would have known about you as well, which is like all a big part of this as well, and I think
Well,
that
thank you.
is obviously so, when you're not streaming, when you actually do have a bit of time for yourself, then we know where to find you, and that's just you know, roped up to the mountain, just trying to get that
Mhm.
514.
Oh gosh, those are hard routes. Yeah, I had to project that 13 actually. It took me almost a whole year to I'd show up there in the mornings and start working on it. I had a friend that we'd go and we'd work the movements out on it. There were a couple spots where we'd actually start at the top, we'd rappel down halfway
Mhm.
and practice moves on it.
Oh wow, so that's
See how we could go and try to break the
excellent.
whole thing down and then try to
Yeah,
send. Yeah, go for
that's
the
kind
red
of.
point.
So like, what way does that work then? Just before we move on, like, is that like a
Mm.
is it like a certified thing, or is it something that you've done these particular climbs that are graded in this way?
So there's an app called Mountain Project that is kind of the current way that people find and grade routes. In kind of like older terms, it would have been done like just in paper guides that people create and spread and disseminate.
Yeah.
People that got really into climbing would have like a bajillion guides, maps all over the place with spots to the routes and how hard they were and tips for how to do it and what gear to bring and nowadays there's again it's just a website called Mountain Project. Great place for anybody that's
Hmm.
aspiring to get into outdoor rock climbing. Um, and yeah, you just kind of go on there and you can see kind of like what people are rating things at. I was lucky. The guy that was there with me, he had single finger and thumb basically, absolutely badass climber.
Yeah, for sure.
Furthest he could really climb was around 5'11", which is still extremely good. Like most people never get good enough to pass 5'10s, right? So him
Yeah.
climbing 5'11s is insane,
Yeah, with
especially when
seven
you consider the
fingers,
fact that he
like.
has he's got 7 fingers, right? Anyway, he's a fucking badass.
Yeah, I'll have to
Love
check
him
that
to
out
death.
because like it makes me curious like that because I live like at the foot of a mountain range here.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah. Check it out.
obviously, in
See if there's any rock climbs
comparison,
in it.
yeah, like in comparison, they're like
Mm-hmm.
fucking baby hills in comparison. Like, because I
I'm sure you can
remember
still
I
have
remember
something.
saying to you and your wife about it, and that like the highest peak where I
Mm-hmm.
live, is 800 meters from sea level, and like you
Okay.
guys just fucking laughed at me as if to say, yeah, that's just half a day out. Like,
Let's see here. 800 meters. Oh my gosh. 2,000 feet above sea level. Like 2,600. Wow. Okay. So for reference, where I live,
there we
we're at
go.
we're at eight we're at 1,828 meters above sea level.
Yeah,
Um,
you're
at
way
the
above that
city.
already.
Yeah, at the city level. The highest peak near us, that's like closest to us. There's way higher ones further back into the mountains as we go, but the ones that are right butting up against the actual city, get up to around. I want to say they add. Let's see here. I can even find this Alta. Um, all right. Let's see here. Let me convert. I got to do this convert. Hold on.
No, you're all right. You're all right.
2,834 meters. So it's a difference of how many meters is that? 2,800 versus.
So about 16.
Okay, so it's about 1,000. It's about
Yeah.
1,000 meters. It's about 1,000 meters from the bottom to the top. And that's kind of like what people would kind of refer to as like our entry level hikes around here.
Yeah, exactly. Where our tallest one is like, it's like a good 7 hour like day out from bottom to top and down. But that's like our biggest, and that's like, not even like, that's even not even considered entry level down your way. Like that's I find the difference of that to be. I just find it incredible. Like, it's like a whole different world, like just over the sea.
Yeah. Well, Utah's a weird place, even just in the States. Utah, there's not very many places like Utah. You have kind of Utah, Colorado, and Washington State that are kind of the places where people go insane for outdoors things.
Oh, for sure.
Like it's funny because like most people come, go out there and. Okay, I went rock climbing in California when I went on a trip out there. We got there and we got up to the place and there was like maybe 2 people that could climb beyond a 5'9", and they were like, "Oh my god, you're like a pro if you can do that." Now it's crazy though, as California happens to have one of the world's largest climbing meccas. Like, like it is like the mecca of climbing there in Yosemite.
El Capitan, isn't it?
El Cap, yep, and all that area there in that valley. That's like some of the crazy shit. But you'll notice people either live there within like an hour of El Cap that are climbers, but everything outside of that, nothing. However, like other states, like I mean, again, it kind of comes to like the environment. Like someone from Kentucky, they're not gonna have any rock climbing experience or mountain biking experience. They're gonna be really killer at low elevation, flat ground stuff. It's just it's a difference, right? It's just a difference in.
That's it. Like I think, it's based on like you say, your environment, like what's around you and stuff. Like California, obviously they've got El Cap, but then locally to a lot of people, they probably wouldn't really have half as much. Whereas like down your way, like you say, the mountain states and stuff, like it's just all readily available. You could just go outside, look at one, and be like, okay, I want to do that one today, and you might not necessarily even know the name of it or whatever. It might not even have that, but you just look at it and be like, okay, that's my goal for today. Whereas like in these other places, it's like they have to go for the famous ones because that's what is all that they're.
That's what they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a good thing around here, another thing to compare that to, I guess, is like in California, you have these incredibly strong lifeguard swimmers that are out in the oceans.
Oh yeah.
And those guys are fucking beefy. Those guys out there, so much respect for that. The ability to like swim through those waves like that is insanity. You can see them surfers out there killing it. Here in Utah, we have pretty big lakes. We have 2 really good-sized lakes that people will frequent between Bear Lake and Utah Lake. And people surf on those, but they surf behind boats. Because they have to build their own waves, right? So it's a little different, right? So you get like somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a badass, surfer," and they're on this like little cute little manicured wave, right, out here in Utah. But then you're like, "Okay, I'm a surfer." They go out to California for half a second. They come back in, spluttering, spitting out salt water, going, "That water's got hands."
Yeah, I've actually been there myself. Like in terms, like it was in Huntington Beach when I was like 14, and I just got caught up in like the currents there are fucking next level compared to what I'm used to back home. And but went out, just went out swimming in the ocean. It's fine, that wasn't the first time. And all of a sudden, I find myself, I'm getting a little bit too far out, and I'm just thinking, oh shit. And the waves are getting really high, and I'm going to one side, and I'm like, oh fuck me, this is it here. And I'm like, I could swim at this point, and I'm splashing about, and then a lifeguard, it just so happened to be going past the lifeguard, and he's in, and he just grabs me and gets me the fuck out there. And like, just exactly like what you say, like, the guy, they fear nothing. They can just do that, get in, grab you, and pull you out. But like, it's just, it almost makes you think, shit, why couldn't I have done that to myself? But yeah,
again, it's a product of your environment, I think.
Absolutely.
It doesn't get rid of hard work. But if you're never exposed to something, you can't ever get good at it. And when you're exposed to it every day of your life, you're probably going to get
Yeah,
pretty good at it.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. No, that's amazing. That
But
like
yeah,
I
yeah,
that's a nice little insight into the stuff that you're into just outside and like the things that kind of go into like climbing and stuff. No,
yeah.
that's
Thank you.
awesome, man. So then,
Yeah.
okay, so going back then to
Mm-hmm.
your game, your Devon. So you've
Mm-hmm.
obviously put
Mm-hmm.
in like ridiculous hours into this. Like I know, like you put in, and and obviously you've got that. Your normal gaming, like your Destiny, and like whenever we play Hunt, for example, streaming,
Mm-hmm.
working, and of course, then
Mm-hmm.
the time that comes with just generally being a married man. Like so,
Mm-hmm.
how do you balance all that? And what sort of measures do you take to avoid burnout? Because obviously, you're basically like working around the clock, whether it's on all of
Mm-hmm.
those things or just a handful of them. So,
Mm-hmm.
burnout is not something that ever I've noticed has ever really seemed to affect you a hell of a lot, in comparison
Mm-hmm.
to like other people I've seen. So, well,
Right.
how do you like balance all that and like, stay sane?
Right. I don't. No. um, no. So okay. So I work 20 hours a week. At my day job. My wife is incredible. She works full time and supports me a lot. Love her to death. She's the best wife a guy could ever have. Sorry, Andy. But
I mean,
it's don't worry, our kids they'll understand. No, but the she really supports me a lot, and I can't. I have anything I say here. I have to make sure is stated through that lens that
of
my wife
course.
is incredible, and I could not do any of this without her. Um, uh, work 20 hours a week there. I try to stream around 20 hours a week, if not sometimes a little tiny bit more. Try to hit like around 20 to 25 of that,
Yeah.
and then I've been trying to dev for around 25 to 30 hours a week as well. Um, between those hours and then trying to trying to maintain any semblance of friendships is really difficult. It's hard.
Hmm.
Again, luckily for myself, my wife likes to play games as well.
Yeah.
And right now, with kind of where we're at, gaming is something that we're able to do from home pretty cheaply and just kind of keep at. So, we still spend some time with our friends and each other playing games that way. So that's something she's able to join in on. Like when we do Destiny stuff, she's in our main raid team. She's in our, so there's still that.
Hmm.
We don't really get as much time as I want, and I know it's not as much time as she would like. Um, the answer is there's only so many hours in a day, right?
For
And
sure. Yeah.
and so
Absolutely.
I find myself pretty much busy from the moment I wake up until the moment I go to bed. Um, and every now and then we get like those little days where like have like a couple hours to ourselves and go do something fun.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this summer we get a little bit more of that. Um, unfortunately, where that's going to hit is stream time, but that's okay. Sorry, everybody on stream. But yeah, I mean, you do what you have to do, right? I think diversity and variety keeps things fresh,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
find for myself the thing that helps me the most is just not playing the same damn game forever.
Oh, for sure. For
Um,
sure.
it's the biggest reason why I haven't played Mario in a while is I just can't. I think I would
No,
start
of
going insane.
course. Yeah, no, and I
Um,
think as well, like since you started doing like more variety stuff in the last like few weeks, like
mhm, mhm.
I can see myself, like I can't speak for everybody else, but like you seem to be enjoying it a lot more, you seem like happier, more
Yeah,
excited, obviously,
yeah.
what's the term that people use now about being locked in. Whenever it comes to
Mm,
things like Mario where you have to concentrate on it, it's just like, it gets to the point where
mhm,
and I've been the same, and you've said the same thing to me. It's just it gets to the point you just don't enjoy it, and it's just kind of like, if you're streaming, like if you're like I always go by the notion, if you're not enjoying it, the people watching you aren't going
mhm.
to enjoy it because like they're
Right.
just going to be seeing you like eating every minute of it, and then it's just kind of like, right,
Mhm.
well, this sucks. I just feel bad,
Right.
if you know what I mean.
Right.
Um, so like,
Yeah,
but
it's
then it's nice that you do get that kind of time. You know, even if it's like
Right.
just a little bit. So then,
Right.
okay, so post curiosity then,
Mhm.
um,
Mm.
do you think that'll free up a bit more time for yourself,
So much
or
more rock climbing.
yeah,
So much more rock
good.
climbing.
No,
So
that's what
much
I like
time
to
just to be
hear.
able to
You
go out with
know,
my wife. That's where all that time is gonna be going right back to.
good.
Because I don't, with the way that my streaming is currently, and the rate that things are, um, I shouldn't really be doing more than like 20 hours in a week ever, really, anyway. Um, it doesn't make enough to justify it. And I think that any more than that starts being overkill.
Yeah, of course.
And so like it doesn't make sense for me to add hours there. Um, so it'll be nice just to be able to have some time just with my wife again.
No, absolutely.
It'll be
Like,
nice.
you
It'll
know,
be
and
nice.
I'm pretty sure, like, you know, whenever that time comes, whenever the game is out, and you know, when you get to the point where you're just sitting back watching the revenue come in, you know, from all the
I
sales.
hope. I
I
really
fucking hope
hope.
so too. Like, I genuinely, like, you know, but no, that
Yeah,
that's it'll probably feel like, you know, time back earned because of the amount,
oh,
obviously,
I'm really
because of
hoping.
the amount of work you've put into it, and even still, like, I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
regardless, um, that's your
Yeah.
project that's going to be sitting there, you know, like,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
regardless, like, that's a mad achievement, you know, and it's like I say, it's not
Gonna be
something that
fun.
you've just spent a couple of months on and just got it because,
Right.
you know, surely, you know, by that logic, you could have already had it out, but it wouldn't have been a fraction of the quality that could potentially
Yeah.
could be, you know.
Yeah. Right. Well, and you know, there's so much learning that I have to do too. You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't a game dev necessarily before this, right? So everything I've been doing here, I've been teaching myself and learning
Yeah,
how. I'm
absolutely.
really grateful to have people like Nightfall working on this project with us. Nightfall has been incredible. Absolute compendium of knowledge that has been so great to work with, and um, they're phenomenal. The work that they've put in and the help that they've been able to empower me to do
Hmm.
has been massive, you know. And then again, I can't say none of this would be possible without Pooh.
Yeah, of course, of
Pooh's
course.
incredible. He's been bankrolling this whole thing. You know, he's fucking incredible. So much in terms of the ideas behind the game
Yeah.
are you know things that Pooh and I have spent a lot of time talking about and being excited about, and you know, it's just fun. You know, I think we're all really excited. We've got a couple events coming up that'll be really good for the game and be really fun to see how that kind of works out.
Hmm.
Um, so one of the things that I'm kind of figuring and I'm counting, you know, like with building this game, it's been a risk. It was a calculated risk on my part. I think at this point, man, I hope I'm not bad at math, but um, the uh, the amount of you know kind of risk behind this with building the business and kind
Yeah.
of like some of that, you know, it's been kind of scary being like saying like I'm committing as much time as I am to potentially not get enough sales. I really hope that it gets enough sales to be worth the amount of time that was spent
Of
on
course,
it.
of course.
Um, but I figured too, another thing that's aside from that is it's been helping me build some relationships with people that
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
are, you know, really cool relationships to have. You know, I have loved getting to know Pooh a little bit more, you know.
Yeah.
Absolute gem of a man. I can't speak highly enough about Pooh.
Yeah, and he's definitely
He's
like
he's
some
awesome.
connection to have as well. Like, you know,
Yeah,
so those who
yeah,
don't know, like, you
yeah.
know, we're talking about Grand Pooh Bear, and like he,
Hmm.
you know, like search him on Twitch, like, you know, he's Twitch partner and all, like he averages
You'll find
thousands
him.
of views, and he's like, you know, he is a pioneer of esports. Like he's constantly hosting all these events and stuff, and
Hmm.
you know, so it's what's kind
I
of
think he's done more
interesting.
AGDQ runs than anybody else in the history of
Yeah, like it's
AGDQ. I
just
think even for speedrunner
yeah,
people out there.
even Wikipedia, the guy has his own fucking Wikipedia page. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
he's
But
he's Red Bull athlete. He's a cool guy.
yeah, and like what I find actually quite amazing about that is the fact that, you know, when you go back, like, you know, look at your history with esports and stuff, like, you know,
Hmm.
and then all that's kind of culminated now in you having this relationship with Pooh Bear and doing this game together. It's kind of like a full circle moment, isn't it? Really, you know, and
In some ways,
especially
yeah.
especially with you have events coming up, and obviously they may not necessarily be esports, but definitely. So obviously there's
It's
that
all the same
esport,
game.
yeah. There's that esports like connection still there, like, and does
Mm.
that ever like make you want to be like, I mean, dip your toes back in the water for instance, or do you prefer just being like kind of on the side of things and just doing what you're doing right now?
Well, where I would love to get with this whole thing is I'd love for this game to sell big mega buckets worth, and for me to then work on our next game. We do
Oh,
have another game that we're wanting to do as well.
oh yeah,
A little very, very, very different. We'd want to do it in an entire different pipeline and engine, and it'd be a very, very, very different project, but it would be a kind of a really fun dream project for us to work on. Um, but after we soak it up in a hot tub with our soulmates, rolling in the ducats, um, I would love to be able to just really be more involved in the streaming world.
yeah,
I want to. My goal would be able to comfortably stop my 20 hours a week
hmm
at my other job and go full time on Twitch. Again, I've told you that before,
oh sure, yeah, yeah,
private discussions, but that's kind of my goal would be to be able to have this be a full time career for me.
yeah.
And so I'm hoping that some of these seeds I'm laying will someday bear fruit, but it requires a lot of work, I guess,
For
to
sure,
to
and
get
like
there.
and
So
you're definitely doing like the right things with it as well. Like, I mean, I know, and you do look at like people who are on like Twitch full time, and a lot of them would have started like around our age as well, like like our late
yeah,
20s, early 30s, and it
yeah,
just, and I think in terms of that, you're definitely doing the right things in terms of making these connections, having the background you do. Now, obviously, it's like between EDF and just Darkvoice being Darkvoice, it's like a whole. You could say it's like a whole rebranding of things, But
yeah.
like at the
Oh,
same time,
absolutely.
like you have all of that in your back pocket, and then like this whole thing with curiosity, it's like it's huge, and like I think the momentum so far is there, and then it's just a case of being built
Thank
on,
you.
like as time goes on, and I think
Thank you.
definitely like you say, the when the game comes out, that will be very
Mhm.
telling. But I mean, I'm very very excited and very hopeful for it. Like I think
I hope.
and I will fucking make people buy it. But fucking buy
Now
the
you go out and
game
buy it.
and tell your friends
Yeah.
about it so they also go and buy it.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm excited to
Yeah,
get it into people's hands. My number one goal with it is I just want people to get in there and have a lot of fun.
yeah, for
I
sure.
want it to be difficult, but I want it to be fair, and I want people to feel like they can complete the game
Yes.
without feeling like they can never complete it. I know a lot of people never beat Only Up because they just felt like they couldn't.
Yeah.
Our game is going to be more difficult, however, at the same time, more forgiving. So I'm hoping to
Yeah.
see that make more people get to the top and be more wanting to get to the top.
Hell
So
yeah.
we'll see.
No, that's awesome. So then, just one final question for you. So,
Yeah.
if you could go back and give any advice to Darkvoice when he started streaming, what would that be? Like, go all the way back, go like from
All the way back.
streaming, esports, just the entire your gaming history, right from when you were wet behind the ears. What would you have to what advice could you give yourself compared to today?
You want the people around you to be aligned with who you are and what you want to make, not vice versa. Um, I struggled really hard with for a long time and still do. It's something that I'm working on as my big mantra is reminding myself that I don't need to do something solely to make somebody happy when they jump in. Um, whether that's playing a game I don't want to try to get people to like it and to actually bounce in,
Mm-hmm.
or whether it's putting up with somebody that really shouldn't be put up with. you
Oh God,
know,
we've had them
um,
before.
yeah, just reminding myself that I don't need their that individual's viewership,
Yeah.
as much as I need everybody else's, and more importantly, for myself to be able to be who I am, because that's what's going to attract viewers
Yeah,
for where it can. So
that's such a good message.
that,
Like, and I think it definitely is. With streaming, it's always a massive learning curve. Like, and I
yeah,
think as well, depending
I
on like,
still am such a noob.
yeah, like I mean, I think as well, it comes with like time and experience, but like a lot of time and a lot of experience. Like, and I think that something that's like important to remember is that like at the end of the day, it's your channel, it's your rules, and like if there's always the fear that you could say or do the wrong thing and somebody will literally leave and take viewership with you, but it's not necessarily always the case. Like, it's just, but there is
Yeah,
always that kind of like fear that like, what if I just, react to something and be like, this person now needs to go, and then people think it's a toxic environment. Like, that's just,
yeah,
there's always that
yeah,
fear, but like, do you know what?
yeah.
I think that's a great message. I think that's a great message. You're doing things because you want to do it, because you have your aspirations, you have your goals, everything like that, and in a sense you're just staying true to yourself, and
Yeah.
everything like that, which no, I think that's very admirable.
Well, thank you. Thank
Of
you.
course, of course.
It's hard advice to sometimes keep yourself,
Oh
I
yeah,
say
for
advice to
sure.
myself, but it's hard to keep it. One of those cases of do as I say, not as I do, I pray.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Well, Dark,
but thank you, dude.
I appreciate you coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure having you as a guest on the first episode of Behind the Camera with AndyGames.
Thank you.
Is there any final words you'd like to say to the listeners?
Buy curiosity. No.
Well,
No,
yes,
but
do
seriously, thank
do
you
though.
guys.
But do buy curiosity.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
But no, Andy, dude, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I really appreciate the invite.
of course.
I'm excited to see how all these go for you.
I appreciate
So
that. No, I appreciate that. It's
yeah,
been, it's been
yeah,
an absolute pleasure. It's been nice getting like a bit more of an insight into just who Dark Voice really is, and obviously, I mean, obviously we've been friends for a while, so but it's nice just getting that bit more of an insight, just to, and obviously I'm very excited
yeah,
for the future for you. Um,
dude, thank you.
so yes, my name is AndyGames _94. I am with my first guest and also co-host from Dark Games Entertainment Podcast. We can't forget about that. Dark Voice Live. You can find us individually on Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, just wherever you can like watch content. um, yeah, and thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back in a fortnight's time with a new guest. We'll be getting to know this new guest a little bit more. But until then, thank you all so much, and we will see you next time.